Broadcasting live from inside the power band, this is The Blah. In this episode, everybody dies. I'm Kevin. With me, as always, are my two faithful sidekicks, Jar Higo and C-Lab Forever. Say hello, guys.
Yo, guys.
Howdy.
An enthusiastic intro, as always. What are we talking about this week, Jar Higo?
Yeah, we're talking about Scott Pilgrim Vs. The World.
A cult classic.
Oh, my God. A cult classic.
Yeah.
I guess.
It should have been a
right?
classic, but it wasn't.
Yes, it is now.
It wasn't. It's a cult classic, right. Which is weird because I saw it when it came out. I really liked it, and I literally have not seen it since.
Oh, wow, really?
So
Wow.
when I watched it, when I reviewed it for the podcast, I was like, oh, yeah, right. Like, I really haven't seen this in a long time.
Yeah, no kidding. I was living in Port-au-Prince at the time, so I had zero awareness of the movie at all, and I don't even think I saw it until a couple of years after it came out. So,
Oh, wow.
I've seen it, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 times just throughout the years, but completely missed the boat when it first came out.
Oh, same here, man. This was not even on my radar. And then I saw it on Netflix a couple years ago, threw it in my list, and it has sat there collecting dust until you guys brought it up in that other episode that we did. And I was like, oh, wow, that is a cool movie. Okay, I got to check that out. And man, was I glad I did.
Yeah, I can't believe that you missed it. I mean, whatever, it doesn't matter, but it's pretty. I'm stoked that you got a chance to see it.
I know. You know, the thing about me is this, like, for all of the films that I've seen and all the movies I've watched about 100 times, and a lot of those are great movies, there are some really excellent films out there that I just haven't seen, haven't bothered to watch, and people are just shell-shocked when they hear that I haven't seen them, man.
Yeah. I suppose when you watch a movie 100 times, that means 99 movies get watched 0 times.
Exactly right, Chad. And like the other thing is that like some of those films I'm talking about are like literal classics of cinema that should be watched by everybody. You know, like movies like Citizen Kane and like
Yeah, same.
You know, Double Indemnity and like things like that. So,
Yeah, I'm with you all the way. Like,
what can I say? Yeah,
I've pretty thorough in the watching of movies from like the kind of mid 80s on, but like anything before I was born, like it's just a smattering of things that I've seen, and it's kind of shameful, to be fair, considering that I love movies.
It's a little shameful. I think one thing I gotta say, like, here's my philosophy about selecting a film to watch. Okay. Firstly, I hate that there's so much of a selection now that you spend like an hour browsing and then you watch a movie and you fall asleep in 5 minutes. But secondly, my philosophy on watching a movie is this, and a good friend of mine is the same way. It's, well, I could watch this film that I've never seen and I've heard that it's a classic of cinema that everybody should watch, or I could watch this movie I've watched 50 times that I know is good and I know is really funny or I know is really awesome. And I usually end up doing that. So, it's like, okay, let's just watch Roadhouse again. You know what I mean?
And name my kid after it.
And then name my son after it. Yes, Dalton.
That is.
So did you like it, Kev? Did you like the movie on first viewing?
I loved it. I took notes, which I haven't done yet in an episode, and I took a lot of notes. I really, really liked this movie. It's great. I actually can't wait to watch it again. I don't know where to start. Where should I start? I mean, you want me to start?
In the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
Start in the middle.
middle out.
Well, one thing I'm really curious your opinion on, since you're like super fresh to it, is like I'm really curious, does it hold up? Because my 10 years ago self loves the movie and the nostalgia and stuff, but I'm just curious how it is like today.
Oh my God, absolutely. If you're a geek of any order of magnitude, a nerd of any order of magnitude, you will love this movie. I don't see how you possibly couldn't. It has, I was going to say we ought to sit here and talk about what defines a cult classic. It's a film that it sort of exists in a bubble of time and it becomes untouchable. Like, it's so good and definitely unique, and it becomes a film that you can watch over and over again, and people do. I think that's almost the definition, or part of the definition of a cult classic, is something that you can watch repeatedly, and people do. It's like Rocky Horror Picture Show, man, or Caddyshack, or Blade Runner, you know? I mean, those films are all rewatchable. They all hold up, and they're all great. It's like the jokes in Caddyshack still hold up. Rocky Horror Picture Show. I mean, that's become, people reenact that, Ben was even part of one of those, as I recall, and it's like,
that is true.
Blade Runner. I mean, my God, dude, I've talked about Blade Runner on my other podcast about 1 million times, comparing various different things in film that are used in that film in other films. It's a cult classic. So yeah, this movie fits the definition of a cult classic, no question about it. For me, coming in 9 years later, because this movie came out in 2010, it's great. It's absolutely great. I love it.
Yeah, I suppose the only other major component of cult classic is swing and a miss at the box office, maybe. Although that doesn't need to be like it doesn't need to be like a requirement, but it tends to be a swing and a miss at the box office.
It does tend to be that, and it tends to be like it tends to go like this. It tends to be like swing and a miss at the box office, a flop, critically praised. Nobody cares about it. It's almost like they're all like too far ahead of their time. And then somebody discovers it like in a dusty box. And then they're like, oh, hey, check this out, guys. And like they tell all their friends. Like that's sort of like metaphorically what happens. And then it kind of blows up in the underground scene, man,
Yeah, it's really good. As far as movies being ahead of their times, I finished that Dangerous Days documentary that you recommended when we were talking about Blade Runner 2049. And It made it super clear to me that Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, was definitely ahead of its time, and that seems to be the main reason why it didn't do as well as it did. But I would almost say that Scott Pilgrim wasn't ahead of its time, but didn't connect to its audience until its audience randomly stumbled upon it whenever they randomly stumbled upon it. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't have the huge opening because the millions of people that would come to love the movie all heard about it at random times instead of via the normal marketing channels,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it the first time I saw it was on, DVD or whatever.
Yeah.
So it missed me until later on.
Yeah.
Give this beast a rating.
Oh, man. Why don't you guys go first?
My algorithm gave it an 8.4.
My fucking algorithm. Oh, my God.
Your algorithm?
My algorithm. The only interesting thing that I can add to that rating, beside making fun of my algorithm again, is the movies that were surrounding it were kind of interesting. So...
Ooh, yeah.
It's kind of in the neighborhood of how I feel about, I feel it's a better movie. I enjoyed it more. Maybe not a better movie, but let's just say I enjoyed it more than Taxi Driver, for example, Rushmore, and Rogue One. It's just above those.
Wow.
So it's very much in the neighborhood of those films in terms of how much I like them. And then Reservoir Dogs, Untouchables, and Brazil are just above it. So that's kind of the neighborhood that it's in. So it's just kind of interesting context as far as my particular taste in movies.
Exactly, Ben.
Yeah, I would give it a solid 8, maybe a little more. It's a great flick. It's vastly entertaining, and it's kind of interesting to see it. It was interesting to watch it again, as it's kind of like a superhero film, and see how it matches up versus like the modern, superhero flick or comic flick.
Yeah, I feel like it does comics better than a lot of comic movies. Like, it really felt like a comic book.
Yeah, it did. The way they threw it together, absolutely. The way it's cut, the way it's edited is very, very comic book.
Absolutely. It's a solid 8 out of 10. I mean, the story is great. It's not a unique story, and this is something I had in my notes, but the presentation of that story was brilliantly done.
Yeah.
And it is a perfect mashup of a comic book, a video game, and a superhero movie, like all in one. And like just the little video game things and comic book things just sort of seamlessly, I'm talking about those graphics that are all throughout the film are just so great, man. And there's so like a lot of like old school 8-bit stuff. I love how the film has the look of taking place in like the early 90s. And I also love films in general that have an ambiguous time frame. Like you look at it and you're like, I can't really tell when this takes place because it doesn't really take place in any particular time, but I loved like, all the 8-bit noises, like the 1-up sounds and like just the sound, like, they'd use like,
so much stuff from Zelda from Super Nintendo, the Link from the Past.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Like when the punch sounds and like, when Schwartzman dies at the end, and it's just, just all that stuff. It's really, really great. Like once at one point he like walks into the bathroom and there's just like up in the corner, there's just a P meter. It says the P bar and it says, and it's showing full and it's like throbbing slightly. I was like, that's so brilliant, man. Really, really great. So yeah, solid 8 out of 10. I mean, I probably could rate it higher than that almost. Like it's so unique. It's great.
Yeah. One of the things that jumped out at me watching it again in the last couple of days, it's super obvious, but I hadn't really thought about it, is that it's like an unexpected kung fu movie. Mm-hmm. So like I haven't really been big into the kung fu stuff for a long time, but it's just such a great use case of the kung fu style of movie. Yeah,
and there's some really great fight scenes. Like there's some really great action in it. They did a really,
really great.
Like whoever blocked out the fighting in that like was just awesome.
Definitely. And I think it's almost, it's weird. I almost like want to disagree and say it's not so much kung fu, but kung fu as it was used in video games in a period of time. Say 88 to 98. You know what I mean? Like,
right, yeah, it's Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, very Mortal Kombat and like, that sort of weird like Dance Dance Revolution style ninja running game they kept playing. Like, I don't know if that was real or not, but that was super cool, man. And then just all the whole idea of like the nega version of the character, like, I don't know. I just, a lot of anime style stuff too, I think was thrown in there, mixed in there as well.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about, I wrote this note down because I sort of came upon this like as I was getting towards the end of the film, like, and I said this a minute ago when I said like, this is not a new story. Okay. It's a great movie. And this is the note as I wrote it. It's a great movie about growing up, put in a great package because when you strip away the video game, the comic book shit, all the goofy comedy, and it's very funny, man. It's really a movie about a guy sort of growing up and getting his shit together in his early 20s, and sort of moving up to that next level. You know what I mean? And I think anybody can identify with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Whether it's in your early 20s or in your teens or whatever, like everyone goes through a period of being an idiot kid. This definitely travels that path for him.
Yeah, man. I mean, I still am. So I have yet to progress to the next level.
Oh my God! There you have it, folks. Unexpected comment of the night.
That's awesome.
Very funny. Wow.
So it's a movie about growing up, huh? Let me chew on that for a second.
Well, yeah, let's chew on that for a minute. I mean, that's what I think the film is about. Like, it's just sort of dawned on me as I was like getting towards the end of the movie. I was like, this is what this movie is about. And you're like, honestly, man, it came to me in a flash what this movie reminds me of. There's a similar movie like this, and it's from the 80s. And I don't want to give away who made the movie because that's too much of a giveaway. But I want to see if maybe you guys can figure out what it is.
Wait, we're supposed to guess?
Ferris Bueller?
No, but that's a good guess, Chad. Yeah, I was thinking you guys might guess.
Oh man,
Ben's like, I don't want to guess, dude. Just tell me.
Can we just
That's an acceptable answer.
Can you just tell me and then we'll edit it out and it'll seem like I miraculously guessed?
Yeah, we can do that too. It'll be a little radio magic. I know, but I know Ben of all people is gonna. I think will totally just agree with me when I say it. Is Weird Science.
Oh yeah.
Like think about Weird Science, man. Like that's a movie where you got two dorks that are like, can't get it together. They can't get chicks, the whole thing. And then they make a chick on their computer. And the movie itself is just surreal, like this film. And It's just totally bonkers. And then all the events that happen after they make Lisa are completely bonkers, but they ultimately, all those events are about helping them like overcome this hurdle and grow up and reach this like next level. And that was sort of the movie that jumped into my mind as like the comparison to this. Like this movie was very similar to Weird Science in that way, I think, you know?
Yeah. The sort of arc of growth thing is definitely there in both.
Yeah. But I think also in that sort of surreal and very interesting package, because like Weird Science is a John Hughes film, and like I don't think that movie gets mentioned enough when John Hughes films are being talked about. I could be wrong about that, but it's one of my favorite films. I love Weird Science, and it has that super weird, funny, surreal quality to it, man, that I feel is in this film as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, not to harp about Weird Science too much, but yeah, I mean, that's just one of those movies that still, like, all day at work gets quoted, you know? Like, that movie still gets quoted constantly.
Totally. Exactly. I mean, in that cult classic way, wouldn't you agree, Ben?
Yeah. I mean, like, literally it's funny, you mentioned just the other day, like, I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and he brought up the whole bar, like, the scene where they go into the bar.
Oh my God, yes.
And Anthony Michael Hall gets like wasted and he's like, yeah, man, yeah, girl with the big titties. That whole thing.
Totally.
Yeah. That whole part came up.
Yeah, exactly.
She need me in the nuts.
That girl with them big titties?
Oh. So good, man.
What's this boy talking about on the telephone?
Exactly, dude. Exactly. Oh my God, that is so great. Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. It's quotably delicious.
And that happens all the time. So.
Yeah, it does. And it's that movie. Is a cult classic in itself. I think, you know, it's like That's like one of Bill Paxton's earliest roles. R.I.P. God bless his soul. That guy was an amazing actor.
God bless Bill Paxton.
Oh my God, man.
You know, but like Chet. Like Bill Paxton as Chet, like embodied the like quintessential douchebag older brother. I mean, come on. Certainly in the 80s.
Oh my God. So good.
You're stewed, buttwad.
Yeah. How about a nice greasy pork sandwich served in a dirty ashtray?
Exactly.
I gotta watch that one again.
Yeah. I mean, let's not go on about it for too long because we could have a whole podcast about that one. But,
no, it's a digression. We really don't.
We should probably do like an 80s classics podcast or something.
Oh, nice. Good idea, man. So, what's next?
Edgar Wright's next, I think. Edgar Wright. I have been super hit or miss with his stuff, and it's only Scott Pilgrim and Baby Driver, I think, are fantastic films. I never really got super into Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz. I need to kind of watch those again just because I've just missed them.
Oh man.
It's not that I don't like them, it's just I've missed them in the same way that you missed Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Kev, they're like on my list to kind of watch and or rewatch, and
yeah.
I don't think I've seen Hot Fuzz, so. But Edgar Wright was such a perfect choice for this, and he worked super close with Brian Lee O'Malley, evidently, and they just did a fantastic job. You guys big into Edgar Wright at all, or?
I wouldn't say like I'm into him. I have seen all of those films that you just rattled off, and I really I bought a copy of Baby Driver. That's a great movie, really, really great movie.
It's a great movie.
You know, it's got its own definitely unique style to it. It's great. Great cast, really great cast. Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. I did watch Shaun of the Dead, and I really thought it was great. I'm not a big like horror comedy fan, but I did like that movie. Simon Pegg, I think, is brilliant, and that guy Nick Frost, I think that's his name. He's really, really funny. So, you know, like Shaun of the Dead it's a very funny movie, and Hot Fuzz is great. It's a great police send up, and it's got Timothy Dalton in it and all these really great British actors. It's really, really good. I highly recommend Hot Fuzz. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix.
I gotta see that again. But he seems to have really carved out a niche for himself, you know?
Oh, definitely, man. I haven't seen the last one in that what's called the Three Flavors Cornetto, which is
Cornetto trilogy or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Shaun
Is
of
that
the
the
Dead.
end of the world? Is that the third one?
It's called The World's End. I haven't seen that yet, but
Yeah, that one sucks. I didn't like that at all.
does it?
Yeah, it didn't hit the spot. I don't think it missed the mark.
That's too bad.
But similar to you, Kev, like that style of movie, like the horror-y comedy isn't really my flavor. So for me, I didn't enjoy it. Maybe other people would.
Right.
I'm not big into horror anyways. Like I kind of find horror a bit boring, but it's just my particular taste.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I think you really ought to think about. You ought to watch. I would watch Shaun of the Dead anyway. It's funny, don't you think, Ben?
Yeah, no, Shaun of the Dead is great. Very well done. Whether you like, whether you think you're going to be into a horror comedy or not, like it's one of the best zombie movies out there. I think, really, to be honest with you guys, it's just it's really well done. Really funny, really funny.
I've seen it once. I don't really remember it overly well, but yeah,
I couldn't say the same thing about The World's End. I didn't really like it. I didn't think it was. Yeah, it just didn't hit the spot. It just missed the mark for me. I wasn't laughing much at it. So. But yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, they did it.
Go ahead, Chad. Sorry.
I think that's how I died this episode.
Yeah, there you go.
That's classic.
Like I started talking, I got a double interruption, and then Mulvey said, "Go ahead, Chad." And then
No, is that what you said?
Very long.
It cut out for me, so I didn't hear you say that. So I'm just sitting here like, huh? That's funny.
And then
great.
Ben, you imploded in a singularity.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, Edgar Wright is an interesting guy. He was an interesting choice, interesting director. It was an interesting choice for this. And I think, like, I don't know, whatever it is about him, it added a lot of great flavor to it. Like, I love how true to the original, like, comic and how closely they worked with the creator and all of the, like, transitions and cut scenes and, like, all the cuts and the way that all the scenes came together. It's such a fantastic rendition of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I didn't put two and two together there with Edgar Wright, but it seems quite obvious now.
Yeah, well, you know what I forgot too, guys, is that, and this is totally relevant because we just talked about this stuff last week, is that he was the original director on Antman.
Oh, was he?
And yeah, he was the original director on Antman, and then they asked him not to do it. He was the writer-director, and then he left. And his response when asked why he left, he said, the most diplomatic answer is, and I'm quoting from Wikipedia, the most diplomatic answer is, I wanted to make a Marvel movie, but I don't think they really wanted to make an Edgar Wright movie. So
yeah, there you go.
Having seen this and Shaun of the Dead and all these other films, like, I totally get why they didn't pick him.
Yeah.
Right.
Although Ant-Man is the most Edgar Wright-y movie of the MCU.
Right. Yeah, I could have seen him doing it. That's the weird thing about that.
Strangely enough, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Well, that's kind of like how, like, some of these directors never get a chance to make movies that they worship, like Kevin Smith never getting to make I mean, I get why they don't give it to him, but, like, I think that they would do good jobs, these various people that are never given the chance.
Oh my God. Smith should be making the DC movies is what he should be doing.
Absolutely. I mean, he needs to fucking write for him, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. Give him a fucking chance. I mean, he can't do any worse than what's going on already.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly, right? I know. It's rough. It's rough out there in the DCU.
One thing I didn't know until, I don't know, looking into the movie online after watching it a few times years ago was that Beck did all the music for Sexpo Bomb. And so, like, I feel like the music was really an awesome layer in the film and adds a lot to it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, man. It's a really great mix of music, too.
And it really captures that, like, mid to late 90s vibe, with Beck and his lyrics and stuff. It's, like, super, super silly. Not silly, but, like, kind of, like, stream of consciousness style that he has. It really captures that moment in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I lost my train of thought.
That's a great trail off.
Yeah, it was. Right?
And that was how Kevin died.
That is how I died right there. Good one, Ben. All right, we got two deaths.
Last man standing.
We got to figure out Chad's.
No, I already died. I died when you guys were just like, after I, like, rattle off a bunch of movies that were in the similar ballpark. So we're all dead already.
You you were killed by your own algorithm.
Yeah.
I can't believe you just said that, Ben. That's exactly what I was going to suggest.
It's like Skynet, man. It took me down.
It came online and decided that you should die.
It's like came online. I was like, God, this guy's a fucking nerd, and just killed me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the algorithm got pissed and it ate Chad.
That's it. It's done.
Should I go down the list of notes that I have about this film? We can talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, man. Well, let's work through it.
One of the first lines that I really liked that was funny was when his friend, when he's talking to her on the phone and about dating a high schooler, or no, she's talking to Scott's friends, one of which is Steven Stills, and she says dating a high schooler is a mourning period. I just thought that was really good.
Yeah.
And next I had one thing that really jumped out at me, man, was just those crappy apartments. Like I was like, God, these crappy apartments in this movie just really captured the crappy apartments of your early 20s, like your first place.
Totally.
I mean, they were just horrible, man, especially his. Like, it was just like a bed and a room and like not a lot else.
Yeah, no furniture.
Yeah, nothing else. When he has her over for dinner, they're eating on a placemat on the floor. Like, that's the tablecloth.
Oh, and he has her over for dinner, and he makes her garlic bread. It's like, sweet meal, dude.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Bread makes you fat.
Yeah, right. I know. That whole bit when he was like sort of talking to her for the first time, and like it was just a really great play on the whole like, having like goo eyes for a chick or a guy, and just saying like the dumbest things, like saying anything to get them to like, be in your, like, to be in their favor. You know what I mean? Like, and then I think in that same sequence, he says, oh my God, you should totally come see my band. And she's like, you have a band? And he goes, yeah, we're terrible. Please come.
What the hell is the story that he tells her? Like,
the Pac-Man, Puckman.
He tells the story. Oh, right.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the best bit, is that he's like doing the Dance Dance Revolution thing with the like 16-year-old, and he tells her the Pac-Man story, and she's like, wow. And then he's like, has a crush on Ramona and says it to her, and she's just like, you're a fucking jackass, dude. I'm going to go away forever now. Okay.
Exactly.
I like that he keeps waking up from his like nightmare dreams, and he's like in bed with his gay roommate, and then like whoever his gay roommate is sleeping with gets up as well. I'm like, just too ridiculous. Like, just too funny.
Yeah.
Right, and just a gentle sidebar on that, Ben, that his gay roommate is Kieran Culkin, who is brother of Home Alone superstar Macaulay Culkin.
Dude, Kieran Culkin's great. He's in a lot of good stuff.
He really is, and he's underrated too. He's funny.
Yeah, he was awesome. What was the character's name? Was it Wallace?
Wallace.
Yeah, Wallace.
Yeah, that's too funny.
Yeah, because remember they pan around the apartment in the beginning, and it says like Wallace's TV, Wallace's video game system, Wallace is this, Wallace is that. It was really great.
Yeah, the cast was great, man. I mean, Kieran Culkin was awesome as Wallace. I thought like Knives Chow was great. It was a great casting. Girl Ellen Wong, who I don't think I'd seen in anything else, but she was great, man. Just a really, really solid ensemble cast.
Definitely. Her name alone was epic. Knives Chow. That is so great. That should be a superhero name.
Even Aubrey Plaza, who is kind of always the same, was like perfect as the person who talks mad shit about Scott the whole time.
Oh God, yeah.
Yes.
I love that bit when they're like in the record store, and Knives is like, do you have Clash at Demon? He's like, have you tried the section called Clash at Demon Head? So good. It's like, are you going to come to my party later, or are you going to be busy babysitting? So good. It's just such a funny quirk. Like the dialogue is just so classic. I was thinking about how it I think you kind of touched on it earlier, but the main reason I'm in love with the movie is that the dialogue and the way that everything's shot is so, like, for lack of a better word, it's so delightful. Like, every couple of minutes, you're just like, get a smile on your face or like giggle because of how hilarious or silly or stupid it's being. And it's just such a pleasure to watch. And I love that about it.
I agree, and it kind of goes back and forth between like delightful moments visually that are funny and delightful moments that are, you know, funny because the lines are funny, you know.
Yeah. I can't think of a better word than delightful. It's a weird sounding word, but it is kind of how you feel when you watch it.
It is weird, but I applaud your bravery and your choice.
It is delight.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to talk about, I had a note here about chicks like Ramona, you know, like, I don't know about you guys, but like, I think everybody either tried to date or knew a girl like her. I certainly did.
Or had their hearts torn out by someone like her.
Both. Yeah, all of the above.
Exactly. There's this sort of like quasi ice cold, super aloof, super blasé about everything, you know, and it's like you're always trying to like ingratiate yourself and impress them and, you know, kind of get into their good orbit, and it's like impossible to do, man. So I really like that use of that type of character, type of person, rather.
It's very much like a stereotype, but it's like a good use of the stereotype, and it kind of makes fun of the fact that there is such a stereotype.
Well, I think the film is about archetypes, man. You know what I mean? And it's like so she's like the perfect archetypal, you know, girl like that.
Yep.
You know, she's always like, oh yeah, it's cool, whatever.
No, I'm just thinking about it too, because it's like it is really much a study of the various archetypes from that period in your life, maybe, or
yes,
probably more that period in your life than kind of that period of time like the 90s.
Yeah.
'Cause it's probably very similar, regardless of the generation that you're in. It's kind of like how there's different groups in your school, you know, there's like the jocks and the nerds and the band geeks and all that kind of stuff. It does really play well with all that. And maybe that's why it's such a cult classic for me, or maybe for people, is that it captures the feeling of that like clickiness of school and looking back on it and cringing and shuddering, but having a bunch of funny bits to kind of remind you of how ridiculous it was that we took it seriously at the time.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about that. I think I really also enjoyed the use of, you know, it had like a really great like musical number, song number element to it that I thought was great. Like, you know, like I remember in the first fight when the band is playing and like like her first ex-boyfriend just comes like flying out of nowhere, and then they're fighting and then he just breaks into like this song number, you know, like it's great. Not in the sense of like a band playing on stage, but like, you know, of a musical. Like It was great. I thought that was really cool.
But see, like, it's so cringy, and like the beauty of it is that like he jumps in and starts singing, and you're thinking to yourself like, what the fuck? And it cuts to Scott's sister, who's like, what? You know, so it's just like they play out exactly what you're thinking.
And yeah, exactly. And then they also they're also like making fun of those tropes and of the movie itself at the same time while they're doing it. You know what I mean? It's great. It's really, really great. Yeah. And then there was one scene that was like a great little nod. It was a transition, and it was perfect. It was the Seinfeld like bass note. It was like pew pew pew.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then he walks into the apartment, and then the laugh track is going. Like, I thought that was brilliant, man. Really great.
Yeah, it is super self-referential, which adds a definite layer of humor to it for sure. Even the like Negascott thing at the end, where the girls beside him like put up their dukes to like start fighting Negascott. He's like, nah, I got to do this by myself. And then he comes out and he's like, oh, he's a really nice guy. We're gonna go get waffles and banana pancakes later. Really nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was an interesting way to handle that whole thing.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be like a whole nother element. Like the final element of the film was going to be like him sort of facing himself, which, you know, plays into what I was saying before about what the type of film that it is. And it's like, and then they just walk out the door.
It was kind of a relief. I was like, I don't know if I can watch another over-the-top fight scene. Like,
yeah, I felt the same way too. Yeah,
I either heard or read somewhere a really clever comment that someone made where because Negascott is the opposite of Scott and Negascott is a super nice guy, it really cements that Scott is the asshole. You know, like Negascott is the good guy and actual Scott is the bad guy. You know, it was kind of a clever thought.
Scott is the asshole.
You know what was a great? Okay, so two more things I had here. Constantly seeing CRT monitors and TVs was just great. Like every scene, it was a CRT monitor, CRT TV, like just those giant blocks, you know, that weigh 800 pounds each. I really liked that for some reason. It was just nostalgic, I guess. And the other thing was he had this great nerd moment when they're warming up or they're like sort of just about to get into band practice. This is right before Ramona shows up, and he's like, "Okay, see ya." And he goes, "I learned the bass line from Final Fantasy V. You want to hear it?" And he starts playing it. I was like, "Oh my God. You got to be kidding me, dude." It was that was just great. It was a great nerdy moment.
The best I think the best nuance of that particular scene is he's just broken up with Knives, and the next scene is him sitting there, and they're like, "Oh, where's Knives?" Like, "Oh, I dumped her." "Hey, I just learned the theme song from Final Fantasy." And they look at him like, "You're such an asshole, dude." And he's just like, doop 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 doop. It's like such a self-centered dickhead. It's so classic.
Yeah, it's so classic of being that young and dumping one girl for another,
Yeah.
And the other thing along those lines too was when he starts stressing out about his hair and he puts the hat on, he's like, "Let's go outside." And she says, and I'm quoting, "Please don't tell me we came out here in the cold so you could cover your hair with that hat." And it's like, I couldn't stop thinking about like how, it's a great like trope of, the lengths that we go to impress members of the opposite sex when we're younger, because like I can remember doing like totally ridiculous things like that. And seeing people do ridiculous things like that, I don't know. It's amazing to me, the lengths that we'll go to try to like impress a member of the opposite sex or try to like cover up a flaw or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it perfectly captured that. So how about the seven evil X's? I have a super vague memory of watching it for the first time. I don't even really remember when or how I came across the film, but I didn't know anything about it. So you're just watching it and it's funny and it's, a bit of Zelda stuff and banter talking about bands and stuff. And then all of a sudden that dude flies through the ceiling and they start kicking the shit out of each other. The whole seven evil X thing I thought was a really great way to push the whole movie forward. And I thought all of the seven people were fantastic as well. He's like seven evil ex-boyfriends. He's like exes constantly because then there's the girl in the middle there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes. And I think that that was the one thing that I was going to say that I would have changed about the film is I would have changed the title to Scott Pilgrim versus the Seven Deadly Exes, because then it would have been like a nod to like, those old Shaw Brothers kung fu movies. Like that's what the movie should have been called. It would have been better than Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
I kind of like that you're surprised by the seven evil X thread, though. I mean, if you hadn't watched the trailer or whatever, you would have just had no idea what was coming.
Yes. Okay. I can get on board with that for sure.
And I love how Scott Pilgrim, Michael Cera, like defeats Superman and Captain America. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just like he's the most powerful Avenger now.
That's true.
It's totally true. Yeah. It's like Chris Evans. It's Lucas Lee. Does like the fucking world's longest grind to death.
That was so good. Can you do a grindy thingy on that rail?
Like tricks him into it. That's how he defeats him. And so good.
And that whole sequence was like it was so like a perfect mesh of a comic book paneling and a video game at the same time. When he grinded on those rails, it was like, it just, I don't know. It was perfect mix of comic book and video game sounds. And like, I don't know, it was great. Chris Evans is underrated
he's so over the top. He does a great job of really pushing the bad actor vibe.
He's such an underrated actor, I think, man. Like, I mean, now he's Captain America. Everybody knows who he is and he's great, but
I don't know what else has he done though. I don't know.
He's done a lot of stuff. He did that movie called Cellular with Kim Basinger that was it's been well received. Like it's a good thriller. Right, and he was also in Not Another Teen Movie, which was a spoof on teen movies, and he played like the hunky guy, and he was funny in that, man. He was really funny in that.
He was in like Fantastic Four or something too, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was. He played the Human Torch, and he was also in another superhero movie called Push that was really good. And yeah, you saw that, Ben?
Yeah, it's a good one.
That's a really good one. It's sort of like an indie superhero movie. It's no mainstream source material or anything like that. That's a really good one, Chad. You ought to check that out.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one.
Folks at home should check that out as well. That's a really good one.
I loved Brandon Routh and the whole super, like he's Scott goes to punch him and he floats in the air. He's like, oh, Todd's a vegan. You're just like, Jesus Christ, that's amazing.
That was the best. That was the best one. That one was fucking hilarious. Where the vegan police show up and like deprive him of his vegan powers.
Chicken Parmesan isn't vegan
For cheating, dude. That was just, oh my god, that was hilarious.
In true deep dive fashion, I took one for the team and read the graphic novel yesterday.
Oh, cool.
And
Oh my god, nice.
the movie is way more concise and tight. Like it's super accurate from the comic. Like almost every line in the movie and every scene in the movie is straight from the comic, but all the shit they cut out of the comic just makes it so much better. And the whole Todd fight thing was like over the course of like 3 days in the comic book. It was fucking ridiculous. So I agree with Ben. Like the vegan dude fight is the best in the movie, and it's the worst in the book. So I love what they did in the film.
Interesting. Yeah.
I love the scene before, like too, where they're all backstage and everyone's quiet, and Envy Adams is just being like a turbo bitch, and she and Todd are being super snobby. And it leads into Scott like being like, enough, you know. Like I think it was very well like it's a great little segue into the fight. And then they have like a base battle with a bunch of like clear plastic cups flying around.
Yeah. It was, and I really like Brandon Routh. He's is it Ruth or Routh?
I don't know. Whatever. I think it's Ruth, but who knows?
Whatever. He's another underrated actor.
I like him a lot, man. I loved him as Superman.
Yeah, I know. I think we touched on Superman in one of those other episodes, and I mean, you say whatever you want about the film. I was talking sort of bad about it. I didn't really care for it, but like he was fine in it. He was great in it. He did a great job as Superman, and he's great as the Atom in the Legends of Tomorrow on the WB, and he's very funny in this, man. He was perfect, like hunky vegan annoying jerk, you know. I mean, like, come on, man. He was perfect for that.
And he has like the Super Saiyan hair that's floating around while he's vegan from like Dragon Ball Z style.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was another scene where there was another great quote in there where somebody hits Knives Chow, and somebody else goes, "Oh, you punched the highlights out of her hair."
Yeah. I loved young Neil, man. He's such a funny little side character.
Yeah, definitely. Him and Steven Stills.
Like the opening with him is like, you know, Steven Stills, the drummer, you know, the talent, and Kim, the drummer, and then Knives turns to young Neil's like, "What do you play?" He's like, "Oh, that's a tough question. Zelda, Mario."
Yeah.
That guy's such a great little side piece.
Yeah, there was a lot of little eggs like that in this film. I mean, that whole sort of nod to Crosby, Stills, and Nash was great.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Steven Stills.
What was after Todd? Was the girl after Todd?
I mean the girl in the alley?
Yeah, the girl was next, and then it was the Katiyanagi twins, and then Gideon.
Right, yeah.
I think the girl fight was really cool. Like, I think the way to touch back on what we were talking about with the fight sequences, like they were somewhat repetitive, but at least they tried to do different things in each of the fights. And the scene where Ramona is fighting the Hasbian, or I guess Ramona was the Hasbian, but Ramona was fighting her ex-girlfriend with Scott was like a super old kung fu movie. You know, like every once in a while there's like a kung fu master that like uses the arms of their student to like beat the person up, and then like,
oh right, yeah,
video gamey with pulling out the giant hammers and stuff. It was super well done.
Yeah, it was. All the fight scenes were incredibly well done. I mean, the whole way they structured that whole bit, how it was like, you know, it's like, here's Scott fighting all of the ex-girlfriends, and then he runs into his ex-girlfriend, and then her bandmate is the ex-boyfriend of Ramona. Like, I was like, that's perfect. You know, it was just brilliantly written like that. I mean, that's the thing about the movie. It's just the writing's great, you know.
Some of the sillier things too, just being like, you know, like you said, the ex-girlfriend of the ex-boyfriend of the, you know, neighbor's dog or whatever. And then with Todd, it's like, you know, the flashbacks. Anytime Ramona had a flashback, it would be in comic book form. And with Todd, it was like, he liked me so much, he punched a hole in the moon. And you're just like, what the fuck? It's just like the scene of him like going up and just like punching the moon, which is exactly like in line with what you were saying about the dumb shit you do as a teenager to try and impress somebody.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really well woven together for sure.
Did Edgar Wright adapt that? I'm sure he did.
No, that's all from the comic. Yeah. The only thing that I noticed that I could find that wasn't in the comic was the ex-girlfriend's dialogue, the has-been stuff, and like the couple of like funny remarks that she had. Everything else is pretty much pulled straight from the comic, even if it was from like different scenes that weren't in it. So
wow, that's really, really cool, man. I love that.
But from what I read, I didn't realize it at the time, but the comic was still being written while the film was in development.
What?
So the movie actually had a different ending where Scott and Knives end up getting together and Ramona goes away. And then once the last issue of the comic came out, or the last book, the writers decided to change it so that Scott would, end up with Ramona, because that's what he was fighting for the whole movie. So the ending was completely different, but because they worked super closely with the writer of the comic, and that the books weren't finished yet. It's kind of like Game of Thrones in a way, where the books just aren't done, so the writers just went their own way with it. So
right.
But then they chose to kind of change it back to what the final result was. So that was kind of interesting.
Wow, interesting. That is interesting. That's really interesting, actually.
There's actually an alternate ending to the film that where he goes off. They actually shot the thing where he goes off with Knives. I'll put that in the show notes. I don't know how I feel about if it had been Scott ending up with Knives. Like, she's kind of treated like shit throughout the whole movie, and Ramona's kind of an aloof, cold jerk. So it kind of would make sense for him to end up with Knives, but in a way, because he's such a dick, it kind of makes sense that the two dickheads end up together. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit of a tough call.
Right.
I don't know. I like the way they did the ending like that, because I think the typical ending would be what you said first. Like, he should end up with Knives, because she's sort of the girl that was always pining for him, that was great, that he never realized was so great, but that's been done a million zillion times. I thought it was great that they switched directions, and she was like, oh no, you've been fighting for her this whole time, go with her. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't really thought too much about it, but I think that is the reason why I like the ending the way that it is because it isn't the same as every other movie ever. It does seem a little weird that he ends up with Ramona in a way, but at least it breaks that stereotype.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of like, oh, he's just going to end up with Knives. Well, then what the fuck was the whole movie for?
Yeah. It sounds like that's where the directors ended up too. The director.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was better that it went that way, but I think that she changed too in the film. I think Ramona changed as well.
Yeah.
So, by the end, when you get to that end scene, especially, like...
So did Knives, really,
Yeah, Knives she grew up and became more of a badass.
Yep.
And, sure of herself and, found her confidence and all of that, But then, Ramona realized, what a cold turd she was. And, she's like, Scott, you're the nicest guy I've ever dated. And he's like, wow, that's really sad. I love how he said that. He was like, that's really sad. And then, and then he's like, hey, can I come along? And she's like, sure. So she changed as well. So it works,
Yeah, I think they chose the right ending.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I guess ethically I would have, maybe preferred that he end up with Knives, but it just didn't make any sense in the context of the movie, I don't think.
No. And the character arcs for all the characters, there are small arcs, but none of them drastically change necessarily. Maybe Knives has the biggest change. But Scott goes from being a complete asshole to kind of an asshole, and Ramona goes from being completely cold to lukewarm, So because Scott doesn't really transform overly radically, he almost is very much in line with kind of Wallace's comment earlier, which is Knives is too good for him. So it kind of makes sense the way that it ended up.
Yeah.
And I also like that the arcs are super small, because people don't change that quickly, people change super quick in a lot of movies, and the fact that this one is for a super unrealistic video game fight scene musical movie, it was super realistic in the limited way that the characters change.
Yes. Wow.
Let's not forget that young Neil just becomes Neil.
That's so good. Young Neil. Jason Schwartzman was so good as Gideon too. I really
Yeah, Schwartzman, man, he's great.
the Gideon thing and like the evil, the super evil guy that puts together the League of Evil X's is just even that they're taking the piss. Do you know how long it took me to get together all the phone numbers? Like 2 hours.
And he had the best line. Like he had the best like evil villain death line. You made me swallow my gum.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he explodes into like a million quarters. Like it was perfect. Because they were always going to the arcade, and like the whole thing is like an arcade game. It was so 8-bit. It was great. I love that. There's a Michael Cera line at the end. It's right before Knives is like, "Oh no, you've been fighting for her the whole movie, blah blah blah." And like when Ramona walks away, and he goes, "Bye" and stuff. I was like, that's where the film could have ended, and it would have been awesome. Like for this movie, if it had ended on "bye" and stuff, it would have been perfect. Yeah,
It's so perfect for that level of maturity at that age.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. And then just go right into the credits.
Yeah.
The only other thing I was going to say is at the very end, right after they clasp hands and they sort of walk off into the night. As it's going into the credits, it's like a continue thing from an old arcade game.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was great. I was like, I didn't see that coming, and I was like, perfect way to transition to the credits. Yeah,
It really ends it well. It kind of just would have been like a whatever ending if it had just been like a fade to black after they walk through the door.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. That's such a good point.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think that really covers Scott Pilgrim for me. Like it's such a delicious piece of cinema. Like it's like junk food, for the soul. You just smash a bunch of really funny shit with a great cast, great music, and there isn't a hell of a lot more to talk about on my end.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, like, my final word on that movie, being a fresh viewer, it's another cult classic for the pantheon of cult classics.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, it is, as you said, Chad. Delightful.
How does it measure up in the Lebowski cult classic kingdom for you, Benny?
Ooh, man, you can't touch Lebowski.
No, but is it in the same neighborhood?
Yeah, I'll put it in there, Like, I would put it in there with, like, Big Trouble in Little China, Like,
There you go. That's a good call.
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's
Definitely.
even kind of, got a similar vibe there. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that's where I'll put it.
Perfect. I love it.
Well said, Ben.
If you haven't checked out this movie, guys, I still can't believe that you hadn't seen it, Kev. But if any of the audience hasn't seen it, you need to check it out.
I know. Definitely go out and see it. All right, so if that wraps it for Scott Pilgrim, Chad, there's a couple other things from episodes of Yore that I'd like to go over.
Oh, cool. Yeah, some follow-up.
Indeed, some follow-up.
Like what?
I just, like I said to both of you, I've been thinking about I'm always thinking about, last week's show, like during the week, and like I watched a bunch of the Marvel movies that we talked about. I couldn't help it, and I watched Ragnarok again, watched Antman and the Wasp again, and I also watched The Incredible Hulk again, and I just wanted to say that in particular, you gotta watch that movie. You gotta watch that movie again. It's good. I just what I said when we did the MCU episode last week. It was it got a bad rap, and it's a better movie than I think people realize that it is. And it was well executed. It's like it's a good thriller. It's done like a thriller in many ways. Not like a thriller exactly, but like, it's got good tension, man, and it holds it the whole time. And like the way they reveal the Hulk and how they go through that whole process and like the whole opening of the film, like the great thing about the film, like, cause we spent a lot of time harping on origin stories last week. And the one thing that's great about the Hulk movie is that they do the origin story in the opening credits. So the opening credits are pretty brilliant. It's like the origin of how he became the Hulk. It's like almost like a montage, and it's also a really sweet throwback to the original 1970s The Incredible Hulk TV show. and it's all wrapped up into one. So by the time you're done with the credits, like, you've definitely gotten the gist of how the whole thing happened, and now we're right into the story. So we don't need to waste time with an origin story. We don't need to waste all that time doing that, because we were bitching and moaning about that last week, and it's like, it's really well done.
And he goes straight to Brazil, which is an interesting take, like you mentioned last week.
Exactly. And, he's really, really learning, trying to control it, man, and trying to, like, figure it out. And it's a shame that we can't see any other, single Hulk films because of the nature of the rights the way they are. But, like, he does some really cool, interesting stuff in that. Like, his whole thing is about not turning into the Hulk in the beginning.
Yeah, that was a really interesting point you made that I hadn't considered last week was how important the thread of him trying to cure himself was, and how that once you get past that movie, he's basically just accepted the fact that he has that Hulk inside of him, even though he hates him or whatever for most of the scenes that he's in or whatever. The fact that he's super focused on curing in that movie, I completely kind of forgot about until you mentioned it. It's a great reason to make the movie.
Yeah. I think up until the Abomination scene, like, I mean, he's really, even through the end of the film, he's totally committed to not being the Hulk.
Yeah.
And finding a cure for the Hulk. And even when he goes to see Mr. Blue and use his techniques to sort of reverse the gamma poisoning, like, he's trying to get rid of it. He has no interest in embracing it. And he really doesn't even embrace it that much in Avengers, They're like... Mm-hmm. I remember those couple of scenes in Avengers when he's like, something worse, and she's like, oh, we could use a little something worse, and he's fighting it all the time,
Yeah.
So it's good, and say what you want about Norton, like, he's great. He's a great actor, and he did a really, really good job as Banner.
Oh, I remember thinking he did a great job, and I also remember. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like, I feel like the sort of stylistically, it was there was a lot of like hat tipping towards the 70s TV series.
Yeah, Lou Ferrigno, man. We didn't mention that he was in it too. Did a cameo.
Yeah,
he did. So that's my retro rewind of the week.
I think the rankings are pretty accurate, and they'll shift a little bit here and there for each of us, but it probably did really capture our individual opinions about the whole series of movies. It is nice to kind of like tweak it a little bit and rewatch them and be like, oh, actually it was really good, or I was wrong. Like, I really am looking forward to watching Winter Soldier, since it was the bottom of my list and the top of your list. I haven't got a chance yet, but I'm super curious to watch it again.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. I mean, look, I'm not trying to influence the lists.
Yes, you are, man.
The lists are done, folks. We have made the list, and that's that. I am not.
But it just jumps out at me as an obvious, like, maybe I got it wrong. Like, we can't be that far apart on a movie and not want to see why we're that far apart. Like, by watching it again,
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I actually want to watch the Dark World again, just to either see how horrible it was or go like, oh well, maybe I was wrong. Like, I don't know.
Nah, it's a turd.
Nah, I think that one really is as bad as we thought it was. It's a turd.
It's a turd. You can only put so much polish on a turd, man, as we all know.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, so that's what I wanted to say. And the other thing I wanted to say, too, is something that Ben mentioned to me when we were talking on the phone one of the times this week, that we should mention. We could talk about this at length in another episode, but at the very least, we got to mention this week. Ben, you want to talk about that?
Or what are we talking about? The Rogue City of Heroes servers?
Yeah, the COH. This is for all the super nerds out there. If you guys are into MMOs or video games, which I'm sure many of you are.
What is City of Heroes?
Go ahead, Kev.
What is City of Heroes? You want me to explain that?
Yes.
Yeah. I've never played it.
Well, City of Heroes is a superhero themed MMORPG, and it takes place in its own world. It takes place entirely online, and it ran from, I think, 2005, and then its sunset year was 2012, end of 2012 in November, when NCSoft shut it down. And unlike World of Warcraft and EverQuest and all those fantasy-themed games, it was very different, and it occupied its own little corner of the MMO world because of its superhero backdrop, and it was very unique. And Jarhigo and I played it for many years, and we loved it. And a lot of people loved it, and it had a really great community of people. And that was sort of kind of unheard of in the MMO world, you know, because a lot of these MMOs like EVE and Warcraft, they're, you know, people can just be awful online, as we all well know. And City of Heroes just wasn't like that. It was just a really great game, really great community of people. And that's what it was.
And what was it that happened over the last couple of weeks, Benny? Because I missed the boat on that.
Okay, so like Kev said, NCSoft dropped the title, you know, and stopped supporting it. And when was that, Kev? In 2012?
Yeah, November 2012.
November of 2012. And apparently somebody got a hold of the code for the game, and for like the past X amount of years, like a small group of people have been playing it on rogue servers in complete secret.
It's so awesome.
You know, just like this group of people. And so, you know, apparently somebody that was playing it decided that they'd had enough, and that, you know, people who love the game should know that it exists. So the whole thing kind of got leaked. There's some great articles. I think Kotaku did a really good one on the whole thing, so you might want to look that up and put a link in the show notes. But long story short, there are these rogue, you know, there's 4 rogue servers now where you can just go on and play the game for free. And it's exploding. There's like, you know, tens of thousands of people playing the game right now.
Is it still up?
Yeah, it's still up. Yep.
That's awesome that no one's taken it down yet.
Yeah, it hasn't gone down, and I think there's you know, I think more support has gotten behind it, and people are like in talks with NCSoft right now, possibly.
It would be super nice if they kept it going, for sure. Like, it's not, I realize they own the IP and stuff, but like they're not doing anything with it.
No, they're not doing anything with it, you know, and so many people, you know, really like have just lamented the end of that game, you know. I mean, like Kev said, the community was really awesome. It's something that's just not present in any other, you know. I mean, I really haven't had the heart to get into any other like online RP, you know, game since then. I haven't.
Yeah, nor I.
I haven't encountered like, you know, I've tried a few things, but I haven't like encountered a community like that. Like, people are just really creative and funny, and, you know, kind, and, you know, helpful and
fun.
You know, just really great group of people. And
Absolutely.
I'm psyched that we got it back, at least for a little while.
And so were you guys able to like get your old characters up and running and stuff? How did that work?
No, I you know, I mean, I think we've all remade some of the old ones that we used to play.
Okay.
But there's apparently, I guess all that data exists, but it's not something they've incorporated into the game yet.
That would be cool if they brought that back in with NCSoft or whatever.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
It would be. I think that, I mean, regardless of whether it happens or not, everybody's just remaking their old characters. I mean, I made one new one, and I remade three of my old ones, and I kept, I think I did a, what did we say the other night, Ben, when we were playing? It was like a relaunch of one of my old characters that Ben and I used to play together all the time. And, you know, so it's like, I don't really, if I ever see my old characters again, whatever, I could care less. Like, it's just great to be back in there and playing with that great community of people. So, you know, for anybody out there that has not heard that, you know, check out City of Heroes. If you were a former player, check it out, because it's great.
It's interesting from the outside, the fact that you can't bring in your old characters is almost poetic, in the sense that it's like a comic book relaunch of a character now. You have to like relaunch the thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's super poetic.
Yeah, I mean, I think in both Kevin and I's case with the old characters, we've decided to just like kind of re-roll them as something a little different. You know, like they look the same, but they have like a different sort of set of powers or whatever.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, it's fun.
It's awesome.
It's fun. It's cool.
Bit of nostalgia.
Because I literally like I made so like, you know, my main old character was Captain Quasar, and he's supposed to be like a, you know, sort of golden agey, you know, old timey sort of superhero. So I re-rolled him, and I literally like got into the main area of the game, and somebody walked up to me and they're like, "Dude, that's a sweet tune." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, man. I really like yours too. It kind of like reminds me of the Shadow." And he's like, "Yeah, this is like my old 50." And I decided to remake him. I'm like, same thing, you know, like literally, like I just got into the game, and that was the first thing somebody said to me. So
it's awesome. Oh, we got to do How Do We Die?
We got to do that. Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, we kind of already talked about it in the episode. So
No, well, Ben, you nailed them all, man. So let's just recap that. So for everybody at home, how do we die this week?
My algorithm killed me. It went Skynet and killed me, which
That's right.
yeah.
And then Jarhigo, what was yours again?
yeah, I was yet again killed by an awkward silence.
I get you every time, man.
Oh, that kills me, man. And what was mine? I can't remember what it was now.
I can't either. I think it was another awkward silence.
No, Ben was the one that nailed it. He was on point with how everybody died tonight.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't remember how you died, Kev, but you're dead as fuck.
I don't remember what yours. Well, I mean, it was in there. We talked about it.
You're definitely dead, man.
It was in there. There you go.
Yeah, you did die. You did die.
It is official.
I did die. We can't remember how I died, folks, so you'll have to rewind the episode to find out how I died.
So next show for us is talking Endgame, guys. We finally getting a chance to see it, and we'll dissect the hell out of it and see how it fits into our MCU rankings next week.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, too. Okay, that's going to wrap up this episode. Folks at home, we love you all. I loved talking about this film. It was great. We love you long time, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See you later, guys.
So long, fellas.
Yeah. See you later, guys. Remember, wherever you go, there we are.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode. If you want to find links to the stuff we spoke about today, you can find them in the show notes in your podcast app of choice or at the website ebd.fm/10. If you have any thoughts on the show or an idea for a topic, hit us up on Twitter at EBDpod. You can find me at Moverine on Twitter. That's MOHLVERINE. Chad is at ChadNormal on Twitter. And Ben is at Jarhigo on Twitter. That's JARHEEGO. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time, folks.
Well, congrats on getting a place, Benny.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. It's
a big load off.
Yeah, it must be.
big load off. Yeah. Still a lot to do to get there, but
sure.
Yeah.
At least there is a end of the tunnel now.
Yes.
Even if there's going to be a lot of spackle and paint in that tunnel, you've at least got an end to it.
There's a lot of that, but it's all good. It's not hard.
Yeah, you just got to get Vin Diesel in his stilts to come and tape and mud your place.
Fucking A, man. Right? Yeah. Fucking Groot's plastering.
Oh my God, that was like one of my favorite parts of that episode. I need another bucket of Joy Compound. Oh my God, I was laughing so hard at that.
Jesus, yeah. It's like we should. That should be one of our first pieces of merch. Is like Groot's plastering.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, Groot's plastering. There you go.
Groot's plastering T-shirts.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a great idea.
GrootsPlastering.com.